Hi, and welcome to the session on reading, note-taking, and academic integrity. My name is Hillary Parmentier, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the tips and tricks that I use to help my students when I'm teaching English classes, and some things to help you along the way in your first year at college. We're going to be talking a little bit about reading strategies, note-taking strategies, and ways to avoid things like plagiarism. All of these things are important, but first and foremost, we want to talk a little bit about reading skills. You want to be reading your information before your instructor lectures about it or has a discussion about it. It's important that you read actively, ask questions, write down notes, anything that you might think of as confusing, write that down. Maybe you fully understand something, but it was bolded in your text. Write that down too. So active reading means reading with conversation in mind, not necessarily actually talking to the text, but writing down those questions and things you're noticing. Also writing down anything that you might not be sure about, or maybe something new you learned. That's where annotating comes in. Having a purpose in mind always helps. So go back and review the information from the previous class, see what your instructor said about the upcoming reading, and see if you can put together a purpose for that reading. Am I taking notes for a test? Am I going to write a paper later? If so, what's the assignment? Looking at the assignment ahead of time will help you to have a better purpose in mind when taking notes and reading. So reading is different for different subjects. You're going to read a novel differently than you'll read your biology textbook or even your math textbook. So you have to keep that in mind. If you find yourself, getting bored or having trouble staying awake while you're reading, take a break, get up and do something else, or take notes. I often find that when I take notes on something and I go back to that purpose and I think about the assignment, that helps to guide me in the reading process. So know that different subjects lend themselves to different reading skills. Now, reading, listening, and note-taking all go together. So reading the text before you hear a lecture or a discussion or an activity will help you to better understand it. It's like putting together a puzzle. Your instructor is not telling you to read that for, just for the sake of reading. They have a purpose in mind, right? They want you to understand something before you get to class. So that way they can build on that information. Now that's where listening comes in handy. You listen to what your instructor says and you add to your notes. So they all go together. Now there are different ways to take notes. Outlining, Cornell notes, and mind mapping are just 3 ways to take notes that you might want to try, or maybe you've tried in the past. Any way you go, figure out what works best for you. Now, you might take different notes depending on the subject too, so keep that in mind. Outlining is a pretty straightforward way to take notes. It's a way to organize your information. If you have a main topic, then you can add subtopics. This helps you to keep track of information in an organized way. This might work for you, but maybe you've tried it and it doesn't work. Or maybe it works for research papers, but not science or math class. So keep that in mind. Cornell notes might work better for more conversational, active reading and note-taking in classes. So you'll notice on one side here, we write our little reminders and questions, while the main stuff from our lecture or class or reading is put on the right-hand side. Leave yourself enough space to add notes later, because something might come to mind, or you might add to from your reading or add to your notes from the lecture. I always like to put a summary and a reflection part at the end, because that helps to solidify what you learned. If you can tell somebody about it or have a conversation about it, you are well on your way to understanding that information. Mind mapping is another one that I really like as well. It's kind of like brainstorming. So if a student's having trouble trying to figure out a topic, oftentimes I'll write on the big board or get a big sheet of paper out, and we'll write that topic in the middle, and then we'll start thinking of all the different branches from it or all the different subtopics. I even tell students to write down information about the sources that they're using or where they found that information. So that way it takes an extra step out of writing your paper later. You already know where you found that information, so you can easily go back and access it. Now, academic integrity and plagiarism are another branch of academic learning and experiences that you'll run across in college. This might be a little bit different than in high school. Now, it's really important that you take your college courses and your work seriously, because that's going to help you build on the information you already know, and it's going to help you to be a better professional later. You want to know the biology information in order to better help your patients later as a nurse. It's important that you understand those mathematical calculations and dosages and solutions so that you don't mess up somebody's medication later. At least I hope you don't. I don't want a nurse like that. So it's really important that you learn the skills in school and you are putting your best foot forward when it comes to academic integrity. Now, it's important, as I mentioned before, because you're learning a profession, you're learning the information. And yes, all those classes build on each other. Even the reading class and the math class and the history class, they all go together to give you a basic understanding of different areas of academia. Now, you might think that, oh, wow, I'm just memorizing stuff for biology. Don't just memorize it, learn it and understand the concepts so you can apply them later. Now, we do have consequences for cheating and plagiarism. Now, that might be at the course level where your instructor fails you for a test. If you're caught cheating or helping someone else cheat, it might be failing a course or even getting removed from the school. Now, you want to avoid all of that, and there are ways to avoid that. Make sure that you are learning the information to the best of your ability, but you're also getting help where you need it. We have places like the Writing Center, the Tutoring Center, Smart Thinking online tutoring, and your instructors to get help. You don't have to go through this journey alone. We are here to help you. If you find yourself needing help, please make sure you talk to your instructor. Talk to your tutoring center, talk to the Writing Center. Now, plagiarism is a really serious offense. We're going to talk about what techniques you can work with to avoid it, what are the consequences, and how you can get help to avoid plagiarism when you're writing that paper. Now, we use something at Union called Turnitin. You might be familiar with this. It's a plagiarism checker, but it's also a great tool for students. I often enable this tool for students to see so they can actually check where their sources came from to make sure that they're properly quoting and they're properly citing the information. Now, your teachers are going to talk a little bit about formatting and citations, but just know you have to give credit to where you got that information. So don't just copy and paste something from online. Talk to your library staff, talk to your instructors about how and when to use source information. And don't be afraid to ask about the Turnitin report or to see it and use it, because there are some great tools and features in there for students. Not only can you double check to make sure you're citing properly, but there's also a grammar and punctuation check in there that I enable for my students to see. So that way they can turn in a draft, take a look at the Turnitin information, and then go back and revise from there. I always tell them to visit the Writing Center, come see me, or use Smart Thinking or the Tutoring Center to get help as well. Now, you might think you have a really great paper, but it's still a good idea to maybe get it checked over, because you never know. There might be some areas where you can improve that paper. So college is a journey. This is a great journey for you. You're going to have wonderful learning experiences, and we want it to be a good experience for you. So reading, note-taking, and avoiding things like plagiarism and cheating are great ways to make sure that you're having a good journey. Organize your time. Make sure you plan for reading and doing homework. Make sure you set aside enough time for each class so you can mark out your calendar and figure out how and when to best study, because you will need time for studying, reading, and note-taking. And above all, go to class. Attend those classes, those lectures, be present, use active skills, and use your resources. So we want it to be a great journey for you, and we are here to help you. So Just a few of the sources that I've cited just for this particular presentation. You might have seen a few of the citations along the way, but here are my works cited citations for you to reference. If you have questions about any of this stuff, feel free to take a look at the citations and the information and visit some of those websites. Get more information for yourself. Thank you for hanging in there. I hope you have a wonderful journey, and please let your UCE teacher know if you have any questions or need any help. You can do this, and we're here to help.